Seance is the new supernatural Shudder original. It just aired on Shudder today. This was a movie I had no interest in watching. I read the brief summary synopsis that Shudder released for this movie, and it kind of sounded interesting. I'm not really like a big, supernatural guy. I'm not really into supernatural movies. But I thought the story of this, it sounded interesting. It sounded like a good, Thursday night horror film just to throw on and just to see if it can do anything, to see if it can surprise me, maybe. Because I'm always open minded with new horror films. I want to give this one a chance, and just see how it is. Um, and this movie, like that synopsis that I read, is a complete bullshitter to what the actual story of this movie is about. Which I'm not going to get into what the actual story of this movie is about, because this movie only just came out, so I'm going to keep this review strictly spoiler free. So yeah, if you want to see the movie and you haven't seen the movie, you can stay for this review. And I'm going to try and keep this review as spoiler free as possible. This is probably one of the hardest movies to talk about in a non-spoiler discussion, because there's so many twists and turns that this movie does, especially with its big elaborate twist endings that it pulls. Yeah, this is gonna be a really hard movie to to keep to not give spoilers about. But I'm gonna try my best. I'm gonna see how I go with this movie. But getting on to what I thought of Seance, this movie I was not a fan of, at all. I thought this movie was dreadful, honestly. But before I get on to all the negative stuff, there are a few positives. There are a few things. I thought this movie did okay. For one, I thought the setup and the build up of this movie, I thought wasn't too bad. Maybe the first 20 minutes of this movie, when we actually see our main character, arrive at this school, and she gets kind of picked on by the popular girls, and then one thing leads to another. They find a Ouija board and they summon Ghost, supposedly. That it captured my intrigue. For the setup, I thought it had an interesting setup for where this concept could potentially go, and where this concept does end up is in a complete mess. This movie, there's a specific point where this movie, I guess, in a way, it steps away from the supernatural genre, and it goes another route with the story. And it was at that point where this movie really fell apart for me. It became a huge mess, because I want to get into that, but this movie, I thought it would have worked better as a supernatural movie rather than the actual route that this story took. Because the first 20 minutes, it set up a really promising supernatural horror film, but then it does something where it's where it's like, oh shit, this ghost may not be who he or she says he is, and it was at that point in the story where I completely checked out. But here's the thing, right? It wasn't even then. This is such a bad script. From a dialogue point of view, there's so many lines in this movie that it's so dragged on, and it's repeated so much. There's one large chunk of dialogue, maybe at least a good quarter of a page is dedicated to this. And I don't remember what it was about, but it was something that was brought up briefly, and in the very next scene, these two characters are laying in bed together, smoking weed, and they're talking about it in more detail, and I was just rubbing my eyes what the fuck are you doing, movie? This movie has some of the most abysmal dialogue I have ever seen. This dialogue, it doesn't have a good flow to it. It doesn't have a good match to it, and just yeah, for me personally, it really did not work. And like the performances in the movie, I think are serviceable. Like I think all of the characters in the movie, I think do a good job for how they would feel in a situation like this. But like the problem is their performances are so wooden. Like okay, like their delivery of the lines is pretty good. Like they do their best with the awful script that they handed here. But their performances, their facial expressions do not change. Do not change throughout this movie. It's the exact same, sad faced characters that we were introduced in the opening scene. And don't even get me started on the twist endings of this movie. The twist endings, I just thought made this movie so much more like abstract and absurd that like I was just rolling my eyes at the twist ending. Um, because yeah, there's something with the main character that's connected to an event that we saw previously, like in the movie, and like we're learning all this new information, and I'm just like, I don't care. Maybe if it was hinted at in some way, or there was just maybe just something more to this story, because there's so much. Okay, there's a lot of potential in a concept like this. With a Ouija board, with the supernatural genre, there's a lot you can do. There's a lot you can do, but this movie, it's all over the place. It doesn't know what it wants to be, and just that was my problem. That was my problem. Like this is a bad script. Like there's bad direction. There's bad actors portraying shitty dialogue. There is some okay gore in the movie. Like there's a few close-ups where you see people's like stomachs being ripped open, and like that I thought was I thought the makeup and all that was pretty cool. There is one cool scene, I guess, with a cabinet that gets dropped on someone at the end, which I thought that was a really cool shot, even though the CGI on it was very iffy. But putting that aside, really cool scene. There's some really cool blood and gore in the movie, but yeah, like everything else. Yeah, both of the twists I was not a fan of. The first one, like the first twist, I thought sucked. The second twist, I thought sucked because it steps away from what this movie should really be centered on. But like yeah, I'm done talking about Seance. Yeah, this movie, like I thought it sucked. This movie has actually got pretty positive reviews, which good to know. Good to know there's an audience for this movie out there. I'm glad people can enjoy this movie, but for me, I was just rolling my eyes. I could not wait for this movie to end. Like it has the worst dialogue. It's a movie I have no intention in ever revisiting, because I can watch a ton of other movies with this similar concept and with a better genre take on it. But yeah, you know what? Yeah, I was not a fan of it. I'm done talking about Seance. If you have seen Seance, let me know down in the comments. What did you think of it? Did you like it? Did you think it was meh? Or did you really not like it? Let me know all your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. So anyways guys, I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening or night, wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next video. Alright, bye.